Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Denise Bryson.
Hello, Texas. Hello, Dear Texas Radio listeners. This is Denise Bryson. I am your host for the evening, and I have the pleasure to be interviewing Andrew Fairchild, and he is the author of three awesome children's books, and it is Have You Seen My Egg?, Rose and Her Amazing Nose, and Bali and Blu. I think that is it, and it says Bali and Blu, The Friends of a Different Color. So we are so excited to be on the radio with him today. I'm excited to hear about your books and how all of these how all of them came together. And so could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Andrew?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Denise, so much for having me here at Blog Talk Radio. Bali and Blu, Friends of a Different Color is actually my first book that I wrote. I actually wrote and illustrated it. It took me about 7 years to actually get that book published. And the storyline is basically, touches a little bit on bullying, and I took it from, my own childhood experience. The second book, Rose and Her Amazing Nose, once again, was taken from my childhood experience. I was teased a lot when I was younger because I had big ears. But I put a twist on the story in that it's not about a story about a boy with big ears. It's about a girl, very unique in the way she looks, with a big nose. And instead of feeling sad about her nose, she talks about all these wonderful things that her nose can do. My third and latest book, Have You Seen My Egg?, recently came out in April. And that book, it's a little bit more for an older audience. And it talks about a rooster who's the main character. His name is Red. And he wakes up one morning and believes he has an egg to take care of. He runs into a group of hens. They tell him how ridiculous he is, how he just needs to stick to being a rooster. But despite their news, he refuses to give up, and he goes on a journey to look for this egg.
Well, it's awesome. I thought that was a very interesting story, and we'll just start with that one, go back to that one, because it was such, hello?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was such an interesting storyline because it really talks about a couple of things. Actually, it talks about in the children's, on the children's side, is not to give up on your dream, and then maybe from a parenting side is seeking after children that may be adopted children or something like that. So tell us a little more about that angle of the story.
Well, the adoption side of the story actually comes from my own personal experience. Currently, I'm in the adoption process of adopting a child, and it's very unique for just a single male to adopt a child. And
Wow.
So I thought I would attack it from that angle as opposed to having it, like a child-seeking mother. So that's kind of like the angle I went from.
Mhm. I thought that was really a good story, but it's so funny to hear about the rooster who really, the roosters don't lay eggs, and so for him to think
Exactly.
he dreamed that dream and then make himself think that I gotta find my egg, and then the hen's response to that. Could you tell us a little bit about that? That is so funny to me.
Yeah. It's a very funny story, but it's also very endearing. And there's also another layer to the story that I really like, too, that a lot of people don't realize, that it's also about finding your faith. Like he wakes up one morning and, there's an egg in the dream, and that egg symbolizes his faith. And then he goes through walking through life and runs into these naysayers and things like that. And, it's a difficult journey, but in the end he finds that egg, once again, which represents his faith.
That is really good. Now tell us a little bit about yourself. Now we'll just kind of divert from the storyline for Have You Seen My Egg?, which is a good story, and these are good children's books. And I think before I go there, what I thought about it is how awesome it is for children to be able to grasp hold, to read the book, or parents to read the book to the children, And then for the children to believe, to have that assurance that no matter what your dream is, you can go for it. You can go after it. Keep searching for it, and don't stop searching for it until you find it. That was kind of the message I got from it.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons in the story. Typically, you run into, when they explain stories about having your dream come true, there's no resistance. And I like the idea of adding the thunderstorm because that added resistance to the story. Despite everything, even in the darkest time, he found his egg.
That is awesome. That is just awesome. Now tell us a little bit about how did you come into writing children's books? I know you said something about they're birthed out of some of your own personal experience when you were a child, but could you just kind of elaborate on that a little more too? Tell us a little more about yourself. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been writing since I was like 15. I loved English being in high school and elementary school. And I had this teacher who really inspired me because she would assign poetry to us, and we would have to research the poetry. So I guess because of her pushing us that I found a love for poetry, and so I've been writing poetry since I was 15. And I have accumulated over 350 poems to date, which I have not yet published yet. And just one morning, I decided, you know what, I write poetry, so why don't I try writing children's books? And that was inspired by David Kirk's Mrs. Spider's Tea Party. I love that book. And I love the colors. I love the storyline. I love the illustration. I loved everything about it. And so I woke up one morning, and actually Bali and Blu was the first book I wrote. And I wrote that book back in 2017. Anyone who's an indie author knows how difficult it is to find an agent. So I tried soliciting it to agents for like 7 years, and nobody would pick it up. And I guess by the miracle of technology, I was like, okay, let me try and publish this. So, and then I just met a bunch of great people and have a wonderful support system who encouraged me to, publish it independently.
And the one thing about Bali Blu is it's about an elephant and a grasshopper, them being friends, and just the diversity of the two characters. And could you tell us a little more about that? And then what the bottom line to that particular book is? I thought it was very interesting as well, especially with all the craziness going on in the world today.
Exactly. Well, I think the difference in size, I think, makes the story read very well. There's been stories, we always hear about the elephant being scared of the mouse, and I was like, well, I thought it would add, another dimension to the story if we actually made the other character smaller. So, it's an elephant and a grasshopper, and basically the elephant wants to be like his friend, and all the other elephants, the older elephants, tease him. So he doesn't like to be teased, so he tries to paint himself green. He tries to give himself wings, and, they continue to make fun of him until one day he's feeling sad and he's in the jungle, and then he runs across his friend, the grasshopper. And his grasshopper tells him, it doesn't matter what color you are, how tall, how big or small, we'll basically be friends anyway.
That is a good story. I think that's a good story, and that's something, too. There's such good stories for children, I think, in building, relationships with people that maybe not be the same, same race as they are.
Exactly.
Or might be different from what they are, just being able to build relationships with different people and being able to sustain those relationships despite what other people think about it. And I thought that was such a good storyline. It makes it really wonderful for children. Now, and we're going to talk about this briefly, and then we'll probably come back to this after our break. But you do illustrations as well.
I do, yes, ma'am. The first book, Bali and Blu, I actually illustrated that. Oh my God! And it was an experience of a lifetime, I have to tell you. I used to draw when I was really young, and once again, going back to what I mentioned earlier about me having a really good support system in publishing my first book, they were like, "You don't need an illustrator. You know how to draw. Why don't you just do it yourself?" And I was like, "Okay, you're right. So I will try this." And I sat down, and oh my gosh, it was just like it's very time consuming. I cannot tell you how many times I drew something, balled it up, and threw it in the trash.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
But it was, and so the first book, so Bali Blue, you actually did the illustrations for it yourself.
Oh, yes, ma'am, I sure did. Sure did. I experimented with color, because when I was younger, all we had was Crayolas. Nowadays, they have all these pastels and watercolors and Prismacolor markers and all this other stuff. And so I was like, I went to the art store and I just bought everything I could think of and tried experimenting with color and technique.
Oh, wow. Well, I want to talk about some other things, but we're going to go on break here in a minute. And so I just want everybody to know this is Dear Texas Radio, and we will be right back. We're going to be taking a break, and we will hear from our wonderful sponsors.
In their 2017 award-winning techno-thriller series, Brakefield and Berkey take you on an engaging journey as cyber good guys duel against cyber assassins using technology, today's weapon of choice. Whether your cyber threat is fighting for your lost identity, struggling with a mutant computer virus, or being outmaneuvered by a digitally enhanced gaming avatar, you will enjoy this book series individually and collectively. EnigmaSeries.com will take you through a doorway into the digital combat of the 21st century.
Dear Texas would like to thank our sponsors.
Are you looking for a book festival in your area? Check out the Book Festival Network, where you can find local Texas book festivals, plus information about the attending authors, their books, and even videos. The website is easy to remember. It's bookfestival.network. Don't forget to spell out network. Again, that's bookfestival.network, your home for Texas book festivals and Texas authors. Read, connect, and discover. We have it all at Wimberley Village Library. We support our community by providing high-quality books in all formats. We have programs for all ages and many services to fill your needs. Check us out online at wimberleylibrary.org.
Bourgeois Media and Consulting, a book publishing consultant where creative inspiration is realized. More at bourgeoismedia.com. EBG 247, where you can find ebooks galore 24 hours, 7 days a week at ebg247.com. Lone Star Book Festival is an exciting book festival to discover indie authors and publishers. To learn more about the award-winning authors, events, and other exciting events happening during the Lone Star Book Festival, please visit our website at lonestarbookfest.com. The third annual short story contest begins March 1st and runs through July 31st. Enter your short story for a chance at prizes and getting published. To learn more about this annual event, please visit our website at txshorts.com. McKinney, Texas's quaint downtown square, rich in history, entices visitors to discover its more than 100 eclectic shops and eateries. With origins dating back to 1848, McKinney is situated just 30 miles north of Dallas and 40 miles south of the Oklahoma border. One of the country's fastest-growing cities, McKinney maintains its authentic small-town atmosphere, which is palpable when exploring the downtown streets, taking a walk on one of the city's many nature trails, or even visiting the city's Croatian-style village. Learn more about what awaits you in this picturesque North Texas city at www.visitmckinney.com or call 888-649-8499. Welcome to Dear Texas Radio, where we encourage Texans to drop everything and read. Your hostess for today's show is Denise Bryson.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dear Texas Radio. We have been interviewing with Andrew Fairchild, and we're just getting into these wonderful books of his. He's a children's book writer, and he's also a poetry writer as well. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But where are you from, Andrew? You might have told me, and I might have didn't. Where are you from, actually?
Oh, no. I actually grew up in Mississippi. I moved to Texas back in 1997. So I've been in the Houston area about 17, 18 years, something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, what were you doing before you became a writer? Before you started writing, what were you doing?
Before I started writing, I have experience as being I've been managers in fast food restaurants. I went to school actually at U of H for an architecture degree. But I currently work at Buc-ee's right now.
Oh, wow, I love Buc-ee's.
I know when everybody finds out about that, they're like, "Oh my God, Buc-ee's!" Yeah, but I'm an office manager there currently, so.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite places to go when I'm traveling from here, headed toward Houston or even Austin. Even it's one of my favorite places to go. It's such a great place. Now,
oh yeah.
What have you ever thought about writing any other genre of books, or are you just going to stick with children's books? And have you ever thought about that?
I do. I am currently working on I would say like a tween book. It's not as big as a young adult chapter book. Just to give everybody a little bit of insight, it's called The Bookkeeper, and the first book is called Garden of Forgotten Archives. And it's basically a story that takes place in the future, where technology rules everything. There are no books. Books and libraries were destroyed and closed by the government. Because, let's see, how can I explain this? It all starts in the beginning where a grandfather is telling his grandson about, what it was like when he was younger. He introduces the grandson to books and things of that nature. And the books don't exist anymore, and so it's kind of a little bit hard to explain because it's a magical book that the grandson goes in search of.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh wow! So that's going to be interesting. So that's going to be maybe a series of books. It's just not going to be one, but you're going to do like a series for that particular.
Correct. It's probably I'm thinking more like a 2 or 3 book series on that one, and then I'm also working on like actual novels. I have ideas for adult novels that I've been working on. So,
and
so who knows where the future leads?
Exactly. Who knows where it is? Because now you have. I read one of your poems on your website, "The Faith of a Faithless Man," and so I read that and I thought it was really awesome. So, and you say you have 350 poems written to date. That's a lot of poems.
Yes.
And so, do you ever plan on publishing them in some type of, I know you've had one published before, I think in one of like a series, in a series of books or, published like that. But what about your own? Do you ever plan on publishing any of those poems?
Actually, I am currently working on accumulating them all and formatting them. The name of the book will be called A Window to the Soul, and it will be, I will be publishing all my poems. And so it's written everything from love, death, every emotion you can think of. So I had a difficult childhood growing up, and I think my poetry and writing poetry helped me to deal with a lot of stuff. So there's topics for everything and everybody.
Yes, that's because I'm a poetry writer as well, and that's pretty much what it is. You begin to write, that's your outlet to write that, and it just becomes that's one of your outlets for writing, is to deal with what's going on the inside of you. So it's really a great experience. Now tell us about Rose and this amazing nose. I kind of really like that book and the reason why is because our young people, there's so many young people that are, that are having difficulty dealing with who they are. And, maybe, or what their body types are, what's different about them. And so tell us how Rose embraced this nose and was able to work through her difficulty. I think it's just a great book for children. I do.
Yeah, it's a story about this quirky girl. Her name is Rose, and she has an unusually large nose. And instead of feeling sad about it, she creates all these wonderful things that her nose can do. There's several points in the story, like she juggles balls with her nose. She uses her nose as a paintbrush. At one point in the story, her cat even uses her nose as a scratching post. So it's in rhyme, so it's very whimsical. It's very funny. It's just a really fun story to read. And like I said, this book was based on my own childhood experience. Like I said, I was teased a lot for my ears. And what I always tell kids is like, even though my ears were big, they came in, how you say, like special, especially at Christmas time. My parents may be whispering behind the door like what our Christmas presents were, and I would always be able to put my ear to the door, and because they were so large, I'd be able to hear what they were saying.
That is so cute. cute. Now, some of your books won a Reader's Choice Award. Won the Reader's Choice Award, the 5-star award. Tell us about that. The book that.
Yes. Well, all three of my books actually won 5-star reader favorite awards. And that's basically, you submit it to Reader's Favorite, and they have reviewers that review your book, and if it meets their standards, then they give you a 5-star award. But actually, Rose and Her Amazing Nose was my first book that I actually submitted to a contest, and I submitted it to Story Monsters, Inc., which is a children's publication, and they have something called Purple Dragonfly Book Awards, and that book actually placed in 2 categories.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That is really
so
awesome.
I was excited about that, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, my latest book, Have You Seen My Egg, was nominated for the Blue Bonnet Readers List Award for 2018. So I just submitted those, and hopefully, with my fingers crossed, I'll be accepted into that. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome. Now tell me just a little bit about where people can reach you at and your website. Let's talk about that for a brief minute. And then I want to go back and talk. I'll tell you who I really want to talk about is China and Maya.
Oh, my dogs.
Let's talk
gosh.
about them before we even talk about the other thing. Let's talk about China and Maya.
Oh, my gosh.
Those are so cute.
Those are my babies, yeah. China is, she's a full-blooded Havanese, and they're really small dogs, and that's my baby. I've had her since 2017 when I started writing children's books. And Maya is her daughter, so she's the younger one, and China's the older one. And then I also have a cat named Church.
That is funny. When I saw that, I said, all right, Church.
Yeah, I'm a huge animal lover, and I want to get more cats and more dogs. I recently bought a house, so there's plenty of more space for that.
And then tell us a little bit about Mr. Tinker. He's coming up, I guess.
Oh, yes. Mr. Tinker Makes the Impossible Possible. That's a story that I'm still developing the storyline. I really love it, though, because it's basically about a mouse who is a inventor, and he invents everything, has all kinds of accolades, and he lives in a tree at the edge of the sea. And so one day he's making his little trip to the junkyard, and he runs into this little girl who lives, in an orphanage, and she's crying. And so the basic storyline is he has won so many awards and accolades, but the one thing he hasn't done is fixed a broken heart. So that is what the story bases off of is, he makes the impossible possible by fixing this little girl's broken heart.
Oh, wow. That's going to be a good story as well. So what else? What else is are you developing on your journey as a writer? And now, how long did it take you to write your children's book? So you say Rose and Her Amazing Nose. What was the timeline for that particular book?
I think with Rose and my first book, Bali and Blu, it maybe took me, I would say, about a couple months, just because that was in rhyme and it was what I was used to writing. With my third book, Have You Seen My Egg, I actually went out of my comfort zone and did a story with dialect. And I think because this was my first actual story where I did that, it took me a lot longer. It took me about almost a year to write that story. And that's because I'm such a perfectionist, too. So I'll go back and read it 30, 40 times, and so.
That's right. I mean, yeah, but that's, because that's what so many people are afraid to get into. They have a story, but they're afraid. I never forget someone told me, I said, well, if somebody said, they said, well, I'm not a good grammatical writer. And somebody said, well, that's what they have editors for. Just write the story.
Yeah. Like I tell kids, I'm a horrible writer. Speller, grammatic error. When I was growing up, I was in special education for 6 years because I had an issue with reading, and I have an issue with numbers too. So to this day, I still have those problems. But I don't think that once again, I think my stories kind of tie into don't let fear control you. Conquer your fear and don't go for what you want.
Well, you've surely done that, because these 3 books, I think they're amazing, and I think it would be great for any child to read this book. So parents, if you're listening out there, here are 3 amazing books that you should buy for your children, because each of them have a great story, underlying story that is the focus. Now, could you tell us a little bit about where we can reach you at? Like, what social media what social media places are you on? Facebook, Twitter, those kind of things, about your website. And of course, you can get all of his books on TexasAuthors.com. So they're all available on that website. And tell us a little bit about that, because we're winding down. I know the time just goes so fast when we're having fun.
I know, right? Well, anyone who's ever interested in reaching out to me, you can definitely get me on my personal website. It's www.author_Andrew Fairchild. Or you can look me up on Facebook. I have my own author website there. All you have to do is just search Author Andrew Fairchild on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter, Andrew Fairchild. So pretty much if you go to Google and you Google children's author Andrew Fairchild, you'll find all my media will pop up.
That is awesome. And so it's been such a pleasure talking to you about everything, and I've enjoyed talking to you about Maya and China and church, and also about your amazing story of how these books how these books were birthed out of you, and even with the poetry and how that's coming forward. That came forward, that started the whole thing, and even the other books that will be coming out. We've enjoyed talking to you today, and we have been fortunate enough to interview Mr. Andrew Fairchild. I want to get that right. He's young. He's fairly young, so I just want y'all to know that.
Well, thank you so much, Denise. It was a pleasure talking with you today.
It's been such a pleasure, and I want people to remember to go out and get his new book. Have You Seen My Egg? Talking about our rooster who is finding his egg and going after what his dream was, and seeking it out. And then we had Rose and her amazing nose, and I really enjoyed that story. It's just somebody quirky being able to work with what they got. That's what they were doing. And then, of course,
that's right.
They're working with what they got. They're not afraid of it. This is who I am, and I'm going to keep pushing forward. And then, of course, Bali and Blu is a wonderful story about an elephant and a grasshopper. And so just a cultural story that how you can still be friends with somebody that maybe somebody else don't want to be friends with, but you can do it, and you can build relationships with people that are different from you. So this has been an amazing interview, Andrew, and I have enjoyed talking to you about these awesome books, and we look forward to seeing you at some of the festivals that we come to, and also look forward to your new books that will be coming out. Go buy his books. He's a great author, a nice children's book that he has that will be a blessing to your children everywhere. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening to us today on Dear Texas Radio.
Thank you for listening to Dear Texas Radio. To learn more about Dear Texas and its literacy programs, please visit their website at deartexas.info. I'm Alex Anthony, your announcer.